Hello, how are you? This is Ahmed Ragab from the Academic Professional Training. This is the last session in level 12, unit 11 and unit 12 in the fourth book, and today we're going to talk about some important skills we learn after finishing anything. Now, we've learned a lot of things like in the previous levels, as we talk about it every time that we learned a lot of things in the previous levels, starting from level 1 until we reach level 12, alhamdulillah. Okay, now in level 12 here, we'll talk about some skills you'll need in English, meaning like the last two levels, like Mr. Amir and I, he was talking about the grammatical part and some of like introduction for some vocabulary and other things, and I will do the same, but we will add some soft skills. Meaning everyone will need like a soft skill after finishing like any course. Now when you finish this course, you will actually do something with your language, okay? So what to do with the language? We talked in level 11, I taught about lots of interview skills and we talked about them, we watched videos, we talked about successful people. So lots of things, starting from interview skills to successful people, which was like that previous level. Now, in this level, we'll talk about some things related to our, like the first unit is going to be about our community and other things. And the second unit will be completing the soft skills that we started and talking about part of that. Okay? Now, so let's start our session. Now, okay. So as we were saying that we start our session with asking you different questions that we thought about before. Now, as we can see that this is the last session, so we need to recap what we actually have thought about before. Now, so let's recap some things from what we've talked about before. Now, let's talk about some questions we actually were asked before and we actually try to train ourselves on doing and on answering them, okay, as before. Now the first question is what do you do? And for this question, that means like I'm asking you about what. Yes, I'm asking you about your, very nice, I'm asking you about your job. So when I ask you what do you do, you answer me I am or something like that. So you talk about your job, your now job, or maybe you're like something you're applying for an interview or something like that. Or if you don't work anything, you say like I'm unemployed, I'm a student, or whatever. Now also we talk about what have you been up to? What have you been up to? That's another question that I ask you about your updates. I ask you about the new things that you do and everything you do normally these days. Also, I can say, what's new? Or, what's up? Okay. Also, what have you been up to? What have you been up to? Okay, so all of these questions are questions you can ask yourself. Okay, again, let's continue what we were saying. So all of these things are questions, okay, like we ask them normally to people when we see them daily or we see them like in any place or whatever. So, or when I see my friends every day. So all of these questions are questions I ask normally, nowadays questions and nowadays life, okay? So what have you been up to and all of these things. Now let's notice something about English here and let's notice something about pronouncing lots of things, okay? Pronunciation is very important because pronunciation in English like is how to speak the language properly in a correct way, the same as the people in their country, they speak it. How to learn the language and to speak it properly. Now, there is something here about the T here. We call it like geometric T. So I reduce this T a lot. I reduce it at all. Like, for example, I'll say it like this. So instead of saying, what do you do? I'll say, what do you do? And instead of saying, what have you been up to? What have you been up to? What's new? And what's up? What have you been up to again? Okay? So all of these are ways of pronouncing the T here. Now, so let's talk about the T sound. The T sound in English has some rules we need to pay attention to them. Now, while we're speaking about the T has three cases. Like, we have three cases for the T. So, the T letter can come in the beginning of the word, or in the middle of the word, or at the end of the word. Now, let's start by in the beginning, so something like this, okay? T. Also, this is tree, tool, table. So, technically, I do nothing with the T when it comes in the beginning. Now, let's go for the T in the middle. We have this word. We have this word. And we have this word. Okay. What else? Let's think of some other words. Now, some words we've been through this course, let's talk about them. So the first word, I don't say a little, no, it's a little, okay? A little, okay, a little off. A little off here, so I change it into D technically here, so a little off. Now, let's go for the second thing is water. So it's, I don't say water. Water is somehow academic way of speaking English. So here it's water. Okay. Let's notice something about pronouncing lots of things. Okay. Pronunciation is very important, because pronunciation in English, like, is how to speak the language properly in a correct way, the same as the people in their country, they speak it. How to learn the language and to speak it properly. Now, there is something here about the T here. We call it like geometric T. So I reduce this T a lot. I reduce it at all. Like, for example, I'll say it like this. So instead of saying, what do you do? I'll say, what do you do? And instead of saying, what have you been up to? What have you been up to? What's new? And what's up? What have you been up to again? Okay? So, all of these are ways of pronouncing the T here. Now, so let's talk about the T sound. The T sound in English has some rules we need to pay attention to them. Now, while we're speaking about the T has three cases. Like, we have three cases for the T. So, the T letter can come in the beginning of the word, or in the middle of the word, or at the end of the word. Now, let's start by in the beginning, so something like this, okay? T. Also, this is tree, tool, table. So, technically, I do nothing with the T when it comes in the beginning. Now, let's go for the T in the middle. We have this word. We have this word. And we have this word. Okay. What else? Like, let's think of some other words. Now, some words we've been through this course, let's talk about them. So the first word, I don't say a little, no, it's a little, okay? A little, okay, a little off here, so I change it into D technically here, so a little off. Now, let's go for the second thing is water, so it's, I don't say water. Water is somehow academic way of speaking English, so here it's water. Now, let's go for the third word. Here I say it's international, not international. Of course, does this mean that international is wrong? No, it's not wrong. But now we're trying to learn the accent itself. So, international here. Now, let's go for the fourth word, which is better. So I say better. Instead of saying better, so it's better. Okay. Now, let's go for the next word. It's button. Okay, button here, like somehow, something like I do with the T, I somehow reduce it to the minimum thing. So I say button, and I have here beautiful, okay, beautiful, that's the word that we're talking about here. So that's the first case for the T in the beginning. Then we have the second case for the T in the middle. Now let's go for the last one. For the last one, it's according, does it have like a vowel or not? But most of the time, when I put the T at the end, something like that, okay, like this word, rocket, okay, so rocket here, like, you know, like I reduce it to the minimum. Again, sometimes I don't pronounce it at all, except if I have, like, some other thing, some other cases between vowels and consonants, okay? So that's, for example, for the T. So here I reduce it to the minimum. Here I actually reduce it sometimes, remove it at all sometimes, and here I change it into D's. And in the beginning, I don't work on it, I don't change it, I leave it the same it is. Okay. Now, let's start our today's presentation. Now, everyone lives in a place. That place, we call it what? We call it community. So, the community. Now, what's the meaning of community? Community is the environment, the people, the things around you. So that's your community, okay? Like, for example, if you live in KSA, you live around people, you live in a neighborhood, all of these things, and lots of people, they do like, they have some traditions, they have lots of things. So that's the community, okay? So, let's talk about the community itself, okay? For our community, we have different things. We have like factors for our community. We have environment, we have people, we have like assets, let's say, not assets, like work and jobs, traditions, culture, all of these things are like some things do exist in my community or in each one's community. Now, if I'm going to ask you this question, can you please tell me about your community? Can you tell me about the new things about community? The new stuff in your community? Your traditions? What are the things like you do regularly in your community? Okay, in your community, what are the things that you consider like good things? What are the things that you consider bad things and so on? Tell me about your culture and tell me about what do you do, like for example, girls and guys, do they meet together? Do they hang out together, or girls alone, guys alone? So all of these, like it's relating to the traditions and the culture of each community. Now let's go next, let's go forward and try to discover more about community through this video. Okay, so let's watch this video about how to build a community from Jessica Bosner. Okay, so let's watch this video.
Hi, everyone. So nearly 5 years ago, I moved into Kibera, the largest slum in Africa, while I was studying abroad in Nairobi. A long way to go for a girl from Denver, Colorado. I did not spend my time in Nairobi making out with giraffes. Soon after I arrived in Nairobi, I found myself in Kibera. I was introduced to a young social activist named Kennedy Odede, who was born and raised in Kibera, working to make change from within. If everyone can just imagine this with me for a moment, Kibera is an area about the size of Central Park. But in this area, there are over 1.5 million people living without access to services of any kind. No roads, no health clinics, no sewage systems, no access to education. In Kibera, life is bleak. 66% of girls will be forced to trade their bodies for food simply to survive by the time they are 16. 1 out of 5 children won't live to see their 5th birthday. In Kibera, life expectancy is 30 years of age compared to 60 years in the rest of Nairobi. But here I met Kennedy. Kennedy was the oldest of 8 children, born and raised in Kibera. His mother had him when she was 15 years old. Kennedy had a job in a factory, earning $1 a day, which made him lucky. But one day he was able to save 20 cents and start a movement within the slum by buying a soccer ball and bringing young people together to talk about these issues, to perform theaters in the streets, to talk about gender violence. And Kennedy was especially committed to the struggle of women and girls because he saw his mother as she endeavored to put food on his family's table. In Kibera, 7 out of 10 women will experience violence, and women contract HIV at a rate 10 times their male counterparts. Devastating statistics. Kennedy had a dream. He wanted to change his community, but he knew he couldn't do it without an education. So I told him, as I was a junior at Wesleyan, that he should apply. And he said, well, what are they going to say? I have no formal education. How will I get in? But Wesleyan said yes and gave Kennedy a full scholarship. He graduated last weekend as the class speaker with honors, proving, as he said in his speech, thank you. And as he said in his speech, it doesn't matter where you come from. What matters is where you want to go. So while at Wesleyan, Kennedy and I had an idea. We know that when you invest in women and girls, communities like Kibera change. Women invest 90% of their earnings in their families, paying for education, for healthcare, changing economies, making places like Kibera transform. And so we started the first free school for girls in Kibera. These are amazing students. Our school started 3 years ago with a vision to serve the most marginalized and at-risk girls in the slum, providing them with a superior education that would not only protect them from rape and abuse, but also provide a pathway out of the slum, creating the next generation of leaders. Our school is incredibly hands-on. Thank you. Our school serves girls like Diana. Diana's father lost his ability to walk when he was a child because his family could not afford to take him to a health clinic when he had an infection in his leg. Now Diana is thriving. Our students go to a school that is incredibly creative. We have theater classes. We have yoga. And we also have girls who are setting in preschool gender goals for their community. Goals like, I want every girl to go to school. I want everyone to know, my personal favorite, that girls are smarter than boys. I remember meeting a group of our 2nd grade students on the street.
Try to list some problems we have as urban problems. For example, we have education. Now, what's the problem with education? That we don't take enough good education. What do I mean by this? Like, let's start thinking about it. Let's start talking about it. What's that? Now, education, what is education first? Education that when you, for example, start your life, start learning some things, start learning some subjects. Now, if we're trying to talk about the urban world, they don't have that much of good education nowadays. Now always, if you want to have nice education, good education, you travel abroad. You go to USA, you go to one of these places that have like a good college, and in this college you have to have like you take a certificate, you study some things, you research, and you do lots of things. Now, so what are like the methods of having like good and nice education? First, before we talk about this, let's ask ourselves like that question: what's the problem? Now, what is the problem with education? As we agreed that we take lots of things, lots of subjects, lots of materials, lots of syllabuses, but the thing is, they're not useful. They're not useful for the real life. So if I'm going to talk about my situation or something related to some of the countries in like Arab world or something like that, most of the people, they finish college and to take courses, and then they take courses, lots of courses to work. But with a college degree, like they don't do anything. That's the problem. We need to make it useful. We need to help our education to grow. How to do that? By trying to fix the core of education, by trying to find qualified people, by trying to add young people to the education. Trying to add young people to education process will add something important, will add an important factor, an important asset to our education system. What's that? Some people who understand what do the other students need, because they once were students from technically the same generation or the same era. Now, if we're talking about someone who has graduated 2 or 3 years ago, that means he knows most of the things about our education system, and he knows what are the flaws, and he knows how to fix some of them. He's been through a lot, so he can learn through a lot. You understand? So that's the thing. So the key of solving any problem is by focusing on what is the problem. As we agreed here, like our sessions are going to be interactive. Our sessions are going to be like talking about topics. Now I want you to imagine this. I want you to try to think about this. Now, what are the solutions that I can offer for helping my country to improve their own education? List the solution and try to think about them, try to apply them. And that's what's important about things. It's not about just listing solutions. No, try to apply them. Try to find like ways to like put them in action. Okay? So that's the first problem that we're talking about, education. So that problem is going to be solved by trying to find qualified people to teach us things and to run the education process. Now let's talk about the second like problem we can say like in our country or something, countries in general, like disease. Like if we're talking about the countries in Africa or the countries like African countries, most of them, they suffer from lots of disease. Why? Because of like, they don't have that like awareness. We need to raise awareness. That's very important. Now, when I try to talk about awareness, I talk about, yes, try to teach them about the benefits of like having like clean life, how to be clean and everything. Because, okay, when I'm clean, I'll prevent lots of diseases from like coming near me or something like that. Okay? So, also, like, try to pay attention to this fact that we have these diseases because of ourselves, because of our mentality. We don't want to change. Try to change yourself always. Change yourself, try to find like new ways of helping myself in curing that disease, not just to rely on old remedies or something like that. Okay? So these, for example, two problems, and now let's list some of other urban problems that we're having in countries. Now we have like the fatalities in traffic. What means fatality? Fatality like accidents. The accident that they may cause death. So all of these fatalities like in like traffic, why do they happen? That's a good question. Before trying to solve a problem, I need to learn what is the core of the problem. And I need to try to find a solution for the core of the problem. Now, always people think about the problem a lot. No, if you start thinking about the problem a lot, you're not going to think about the bright side, which is trying to find a solution. Always when you have a problem, try to find solutions. Now, the fatalities. Now, what's the core of the problem? So as we agreed, the key of solving any problem, knowing the core. So what's the core of the problem? Why do lots of people have these fatality in the street? Yes, because of recklessness. Like, lots of people are reckless. They go fast in occupied places with people. All of these things. Inside the city, they go fast. And they try to race in the street. Lots of things. How to prevent all of these things from happening? By raising awareness again. Okay. By trying to tell them that these actions, these deeds are not correct. These deeds not just can harm you, also can harm other people as well. So you have to pay attention to this. Now let's go for another problem that we have in our community. Okay, it's loading. Yes, the high crime rate. Now, if we're talking about this problem, this specific problem, we'll say something important. Now, this specific problem starts from what? Starts from us, okay? You can say, okay, if we're trying to talk about this, now, why crime happen? Why do they happen? Okay, so that's a good question. Why do they happen? So they happen because of the culture thing. They happen because of the culture-wise. Now, let's think about it like this. Now, if we have in our culture that committing a crime is a wrong thing, we try to provide them with awareness. We told them that doing drugs or doing something wrong that might lead you to commit a crime is wrong. So that is somehow a solution for this problem. Because after this problem, we'll talk about another problem, drugs. Drugs is one of the most important problems nowadays. Now why is that? Because nowadays they became phenomena. So they have and they have lots of bad effects on you. Now lots of people now are doing drugs. So when they start doing drugs, they start to lose their minds, lose their jobs, lose everything. Drugs are not a nice thing always. Now, let's watch this video, then we come back to talk about the same topic.
Two years ago, the comedian and actor Robin Williams hit the road with a new stand-up routine for the first time in 16 years. 3 months later, he'd undergone urgent heart surgery and was fitted with a new heart valve from a cow, which of course he immediately worked into his routine. As well as being an accomplished actor with a long list of screen credits, including an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, plus 2 other nominations, Williams is the comedian's comedian, and he's on tour in Australia for the first time, with a show he calls Weapons of Self-Destruction. His quick-fire, at times manic brand of humour knows few boundaries, but he doesn't spare himself either, talking candidly, even scathingly, of his 30-year battle with alcoholism and falling off the wagon after 20 years of sobriety. I spoke with Robin Williams in Brisbane today. Robin Williams, I assume this show isn't just about your own preferred weapons of self-destruction. I assume we're all in it.
Oh, yes, everyone. Everything that I've been through the last couple of years is in it. It was put together as kind of, let's talk about it, because things, as I say, are getting really interesting.
For someone as high energy as you seem to be, to have been away from the full kind of circuit of stand-up,